Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Pastor Tony. Just want to share a couple thoughts, and I hope that it encourages you. So, I've been the last couple days. I've been a little bit more, if I'm not, honest with everybody. I've been a little bit more anxious than in previous days. So, I've been getting up in the middle of the night. I've been thinking about things. I've been thinking about the lockdown, if it's, how long it's going to last and what's going to happen, because everybody is in this unknown world right now. So, and no one really knows what's around the corner, man, or when it's going to turn or whatever. So it's created a little bit more anxiety in me than I thought it would. So I got up this morning and I talked to my wife about it, and we were just talking, and sharing about this, and I'm grateful that I have a woman who seems to put things in perspective for me, and right me when I'm wrong, and sort of put me in the right direction again. So I'm very fortunate. So I just want to shout out to my wife Debbie for that. So I was reading something about John chapter 4. Everyone knows the story about the woman at the well. Jesus approaches a woman, a Samaritan woman, and asks her for a drink, and she's beside herself and said, and saying, how could you ask me for a drink? I'm a Samaritan and I'm a woman. And Jesus says, if you knew the gift of God and who it is, then you would ask him for a drink, and he would give you water and you would never thirst again, right? So he basically said to her, he said that the water I will give, he says to her, whoever drinks of the water I give will never thirst again, and it will become in him a well of water, and it will spring up to eternal life. And I thought about that for a second, and I think of the fact that I've been following Christ now 27 years, so I like to think of myself as a fairly mature Christian at this point. I think others might, have something to say about that, but I like to think of myself at least as one. And I know many, Christians out there who really love Jesus and are mature. So, I've been around the block, so to speak. So, and I know pretty much everybody I have ever met, including me, has been thirsty, has been needy, has been anxious, has been fearful. It seems like that promise has not been met, because I've drank from Jesus' hand, and I still remain thirsty. But the second half of that verse is really, I think, the key half of that verse, right? So what Jesus says, he says, whoever drinks of the water I will give him, he will never thirst, for it will become in him a well of water springing up to eternal life. So the well, I think, is what the important part, of the verse is. So a well, if you dig a well, it becomes a constant source of water. It becomes a water that springs up. And so whenever you might need it, you just go to the well, and you tap the well, and there is a source of water, and it springs up, right? So, I don't think God ever wanted a self-sufficient Christian that would just come to him when he is in need and thirsty and drink, and then that would be it. He would just never thirst again, right? So it's the person that knows, hey, I am thirsty. I just go to the well whenever I want, So it's sort of like Jesus is saying, hey, I want you to come whenever you are thirsty again and again and again, and tap into my well. And there's going to be water there. It's going to give you life, and it springs up. It's a well. It springs up. It is eternal. It's always there whenever you might need it. And what that does is it bridges the gap and it creates closeness. So the more that we come to the well, every time we are thirsty, it creates intimacy and bridges that gap, and and it just increases intimacy, and it grows that just grows that friendship, and it creates closeness and closeness and closeness, and you always have a source of life every time that you come, and it springs up to eternal life. So yeah. So I just realized that it took me 27 years, but I'm glad I finally got it. I guess better late than never, and I hope that was an encouragement to you guys.